Hey everybody, welcome to Excel video 394. I'm Nate Moore. Before we get playing with this appointment data, I'm helping a practice that has a bunch of appointment data looking out to see a variety of things that might go wrong with future appointments. And we just added some more things to the list of saying, hey, if you see this or this or this in future appointments, send us a daily email and let us know so that we can fix it before the patient gets here. When you want to take a look at your appointments and see a daily email to tell you exactly what's coming to your practice, let's talk. Last time, we added a bunch of columns out here to do an advanced filter. We did these three columns and then summed them. What I've done since then is I've said, you know what, I can take these four columns and I can turn it into one by simply writing a pretty involved little formula here. And without getting too worked up about the syntax or the semantics or whatever, the only things you really need to know is that when I arrow over and click on a cell like this referral source, when I click on this referral source H2, Excel automatically puts this bracket and the @ sign in the bracket. Excel does all that for me as I'm arrowing over to create the formula. So that's not a big deal. What you need to know is what this OR function does. And all OR does is it says, give me a logical test, something that's either true or false, comma, another logical test, comma, another logical test, as many as you want to throw out there, and then put a right parenthesis at the end. And what OR will do is it'll go evaluate this test, then it'll evaluate this one, then it'll evaluate this one. And if any of the tests are true, then it'll come back and put true here. Otherwise, it will do false. So notice anytime I had a 0 here, I get a false. But anytime I had a 3, or in fact, let's just pick 1s and 2s as well. All of those, these 2s are going to evaluate to true, and all the way down, they're all going to evaluate to true because one of the factors that we're looking for is true. Does that make sense? All OR is doing is it's saying, hey, I'm just going to go through a whole bunch of tests, and if any of them are true, I'm going to tell you one of them is true. So we can say, hey, there is a chance that, or a higher probability, let's say, that this patient might not show up because they've got one or more of these things true. That's all OR is doing, is it's saying one or more of these things are true. Another way to do that would be to use the sum function. And what the sum function does is essentially it puts this formula, this formula, this formula together in a sum function. What you can do with sum, now, before I get into my notes here, you can do equals sum 5, 4, 2. And Excel says, sure, I can do that. That's 11. We're doing the same kind of thing with this sum function that I've got here in blue, and we'll walk through in just a second. If referral source is unknown, count 1, otherwise 0. If no-show history is greater than 0.5, count 1, otherwise 0. If the weekday's Friday, count 1, otherwise 0. And so the sum function is essentially replicating what we did in 4 columns here in 1 column there. Now this is a bit more involved to put all that in one function. But once you've written it and it works, you're done. And it's not terribly difficult once you understand the pieces to go through and say, you know, I think I'll go make, hey, if the no-show history is greater than 0.4 or 0.8, or, you know, what if the weekday's Thursday instead? Or, you know, I want to add one more referral source. What if, you know, it comes from the hospital, it comes from an employer or whatever. I can easily tweak these formulas and just put it inside this sum function. And again, the format of sum is something, comma, something, comma, something, and Excel just adds them up, 1s and 0s. Let's look at these formulas just briefly. Here's the OR function in this likely to no-show column. All we're doing is we're saying OR, left parenthesis, the first test, the referral source is unknown. The second test, no-show history is greater than 0.5. The third test, weekday equals 6. And these tests are separated by commas, and OR just says if any of them is true, the whole thing's true. Sum is a similar approach. Equals sum left parenthesis, and then we just use the if function. 1 or 0, 1 or 0, 1 or 0, and that will do it for us. One last thought before we leave filters. If you do the sum function, you could weight things more heavily than other factors, or just says if any of them are true, all of them are true, I think they're less likely to no-show. You could come in here and say, hey, you know what, if the referral source is unknown, you know what, that's a double point against you. That's 2. Or if the no-show history is greater than 0.8, I'm going to give you 3 points. If it's greater than 0.5, I'm going to give you 2 points or something like that. Or you could scale this thing and start to get into some predictive analytics by using a formula like this to say, hey, I'm just going to give each of these factors a score. I'm going to score each of the appointments, and an appointment that score over 3 or 20 or whatever your scale is less likely to no-show. I'm going to double book that appointment. I'm going to follow up with that patient a second time. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to manage that no-show. That's what I wanted to say about advanced filters. You can do it the way we've done it for several videos up above the table, up here. You can do it with multiple columns, or you can do it with a single column and just the or the sum functions. I hope that was helpful for you. I've got more to say about tables, and I'll do it next time. Thanks for watching.